I don't have handouts today because what I would rather prefer is that if you want this presentation, come see me after this, give me your email address, and I'll email it to you. That way there I know you're really interested in how to conduct training at the post and district level. One of the things that we did with the training committee, excuse me, one of the things we did with the training committee was we established that the large group training sessions we had at places like Killeen and when we did over here at the department, very large training sessions, that we're seeing the same people all the time. And we needed to drive training down to its lowest levels. Now, basically for us, the lowest level is at the post level. And we've asked everyone at the post level through our objectives to include at least 15 minutes of training at every meeting that they have. And it doesn't take much. It's just as easy and simple as opening up the commander's guide, the officer's guide, and pulling out maybe the duties of a service officer, or what the committees are. Or maybe it's pulling out a pamphlet on oratorical contest and explaining to your members what it means to have an oratorical contest. Because I'll tell you right now, at the, you look at the Department of Texas across the board, we're not doing very well with oratorical contests. And I understand that we're having issues with schools and they think we're competing with their debate teams and, you know, it's taking away from some other events that these schools want to do. But if we sat there and actually went in and everybody who understood what an oratorical contest was and went out and visited a school and talked to those counselors and talked to that principal, they'd have a better idea of what's going on. But we can't do that if we don't train ourselves as to what it is we're going to be doing. Computer needs to wake up. Come on, computer. Okay. So what I want to talk about today is, you know, we did this Killeen training and we had like 500 people out there, and I'm not sure exactly what they took away from it. Hopefully they were a little bit more motivated in order to do the good things with the American Legion. But we believe that training should be brought down into smaller groups because adults learn differently than young kids in college. Okay? Adults really don't want to be told things. They want to experience things. They want to be a part of it. And that's how they learn. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to talk about how do we determine our training needs. How do we know? What do we know what we're going to train on? Okay? The training event in itself, this is a concept that we put together in the 4th Division. It's called zone training. And how it works is that we break things down into smaller groups. Because just like the military trains today, I happen to work at the Sergeants Majors Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas, and the method of instruction for the 574 students they have in classes right now is small group instruction. Every single one of those classrooms are broken down to about 16 people per instructor. And the instructors aren't really teachers, they're facilitators. They don't tell you what you're going to learn, they walk you through the learning process. And that's what we hope to be able to do in the American Legion. We need to walk our people through the process so they can take ownership of it and be a part of the solution. And we'll go through a little bit of these things, but adults, the greatest learning occurs when adults take responsibility for what they're learning. Okay? And we hope that in the American Legion that we want to take responsibility for knowing what our programs are, what we stand for, and then taking that responsibility back out into the public. Adults learn that which is personally beneficial to them. Okay? You wouldn't be here if you didn't think it was beneficial to you. Students who go to college, they learn differently in the sense that they know they got to take a test at the end of the day. They got to write copious notes, and they have to really kind of dig in and memorize everything that instructor or that professor is trying to teach them. Okay? But there's no test at the end of the day when we get through with our training. Our test is actually out there in the street when we're doing our job as legionnaires, as officers, as representatives of the greatest organization in the United States. Okay? So we have to be personally beneficial. And adults also learn by discovering new things through crosstalk, by each other. We come here to the Department of Texas and we learn things by networking, by talking to each other. You know, you bring up an issue or a problem and somebody will tell you, well, I know who figured that one out. Why don't we go over there and talk to them? We learn from each other. Okay? You don't learn from me standing up here telling you how to do it. We learn from each other. And also, adults learn more from experience and feedback than from experience alone. Our peers are very good at telling us how we screwed up. They're also, hopefully, very good at telling us how good we've done. Because when we know how good we've done, we continue to do better. Here's some assumptions about adult learning. Adults are increasingly self-directing, which means they're going to go wherever they feel that they are best utilize themselves. Because as we get older, we don't like to embarrass ourselves. You know, we don't like to stand up and say, oh, I don't know that one. Okay? So we always go in a self-directing area where we think we can be a little bit more successful. But when we break things down into small groups, hopefully we get you to broaden your horizons a little bit and learn more and become a little bit less self-directing and a little bit more, how should I say, participative. Okay? Adults' experience provides a rich resource for learning. That's why if we count up all the ages of everybody in here, we'd be up in probably about thousands of years. But the experience that's out here in this room is an amazing piece of learning, an amazing piece of direction for this Department of Texas. We can, everybody has different experiences, whether it's in El Paso, whether it's down in McAllen, whether it's over in Beaumont. We all experience different things, and this is where we actually get a chance to come together and learn from each other about doing that. But those experiences that you have at your one post in McAllen can be shared with another post that's just down the street. Okay? And we need to do that. We need to not just learn from ourselves within our own little post. We need to share the wealth of who we are and what we do. Okay? Adults' readiness to learn develops from life tasks and problems. Pretty obvious. And our orientation to learning is task-oriented or problem-solving. Okay? We like to take problems and we like to solve them. It's not just subject-centered. When we take a look at, even if you take a look at just membership, I mean, that's a subject-centered thing, but what is the problem with membership? What is the task that we need to do? It's not just an idea or a subject matter that we need to learn. We're trying to solve an issue or a problem. And adults are also motivated by internal incentives, not curiosity. Okay? Now, I didn't write none of this stuff. This all comes from the Army. This is a part of their adult learning model that they teach their instructors how to teach the students at the Sergeant Major's Academy. Okay? There's a different way of teaching adults. And in small groups, again, and I'm going to keep going back to small groups, is the greatest method of teaching adults. Because in a large group like this, or a group of 500 people, how many people will actually raise their hand and say something in front of a very large group. Most people won't for fear of maybe saying something a little awkward or not saying the right thing, just being a little bit off center. But in a small group around your peers, when there's only 6 or 7 or 8 of you, that opportunity to raise your hand and have something to say and get that little bit of feedback that's in that little close-knit group is much greater. And the learning experience is that much more. Okay? Small group instruction is collaborative learning. Because when you sit around in that group, in that small table, and we're going to do a little 5-minute demonstration up here of what a small group discussion looks like. You're not doing PowerPoint by death. Okay? That's what we like to do, PowerPoint by death. Whereas rather we should be having a conversation. Because through that conversation, we will learn. And everyone in that group will come out with that same idea, that same solution, and they'll own it because they were a part of it. They were part of that discussion. It does prompt people to have a voice. Because like I said, nobody wants to speak in a large group. But around a small table like this, it's so much easier to get a discussion going. Okay? For maximum learning to occur, a group must possess a common goal. Okay? Now, if you're standing in a big room and we're talking about being a service officer, well, not everybody is going to be a service officer. So not everybody's interested in that same goal. They're here because, you know, a lot of times they want to be seen. They're in the training environment. You know, information is good, but they don't retain it as well because they don't have that common goal. But if you're in that group of service officers sitting around a table and talking about what does it mean to be a service officer, you all have a common goal. And you learn from each other. How do we determine the training needs around the department or the districts or divisions? How do we do that? Can somebody tell me, how do you determine what your training needs are at your district?
Define problems.
Define problems?
Getting out and visiting the posts.
Excuse me?
Getting out and visiting the posts.
Getting out and visiting the posts?
Talking to the post commanders and
Okay.
people and seeing what they're lacking.
Fine. Yeah, seeing what they're lacking. Well, how about, you know, just the whole idea of what department's putting out report-wise and everything, and they identify a lot of issues that we have in the posts. Who's not doing their CPRs? Who's not doing, you know, when was the last time a post had ever updated their constitution and bylaws? Do you know we have posts in the state of Texas that have never updated their constitution and bylaws since the day it was printed back in 1958? They haven't looked at it. That's a problem. So there's a training initiative right there. There's a training subject right there. We talked about putting in your consolidated post reports. And what did you say, Fred? 54%?
No, 54 did not.
54 did not. 54% did not do their consolidated post report. Well, that's a problem. That's an issue that can be discussed and be trained. Okay? So when you take a look at the districts or your divisions and you find out who's doing their job and who's not doing their job, and what are we lacking? Are we lacking in membership? Are we lacking in programs? Or are we lacking in administration, period, of the American Legion? Those are your training and how we identify those needs. The other part is that you go and identify your needs of your posts. You survey your posts. What do they want help on? Okay? Now, when we decided that the zone training was the way to go in the 4th Division, it's easy for the 16th District because we're broken up in 3 zones anyways. Because we're so large, we have to have 3 zone commanders. I happen to be the West Zone commander. We have a South Zone commander, and we have a East Zone commander. And those commanders are basically responsible to the district commander, Mr. Phil Westerman over here, to kind of like help him out because he can't hit all the places within the district with just the drop of the dime. So he calls me up a lot of times and says, Dave, go fix this for me. Okay? But because we have these zones in the 16th district, it makes for perfect training opportunities because in El Paso, there are 8 posts within my zone. It's perfect. So if I want to do leadership training, adjutant training, and say service officer training, I should be getting 3 people from every post. Okay? And they're going to sit around with a subject matter expert that we're going to pick, somebody who is very, very familiar with any one of those subjects, and they're going to sit down at a table and facilitate a discussion. Not do training, but facilitate a discussion. Okay? Location, location, location. You can't stress that enough. You got to have open space and room to do training. You can't just stuff it in a corner. Okay? You got to have good lighting. This is not quite good enough, but you got to have good lighting. You got to have good air temperature and quality. Can't be a bunch of smokers around and stuff and everything. If you're doing training, make sure it's a comfortable environment for everybody to get trained in. Otherwise, they're going to be either shivering or they're going to be complaining about different things that's going on. They're not going to be focused on what you're doing. Use handouts instead of PowerPoint slides. Okay? They do the same job, but you don't have people focused up. You don't want people focused up on a screen all the time. You want people focused on the group. Use your handouts as your PowerPoint by death presentation and get people to look through those handouts and have a discussion about the information that's on there. Make sure you have sign-in sheets. Know who you're training. Because if we don't know who we're training, how do we know what we're doing and how successful we are? You know, we got to track these things. We got to be able to report. At the training committee, we've asked for that. We've asked for you to come back and report to us the training that you've done. How many people have you trained? The locations, the subject matter. Okay? Do an end-of-course critique. Don't make it this 20 question, 30 question, or whatever critique. Keep it simple. Keep your critiques down to about 5 questions. How did we do? You know, it's very basic and simple. They will tell you. Most people hate surveys. How many people hate surveys in this room? Good portion of us, right? I hate it. Every time I go to an online store and buy something, the next thing you know, I got an email coming in asking me, can I fill out this 20-question survey on the customer service that they gave me? You know, they really didn't give me any customer service. They had a product on the website, and I clicked a couple of buttons, and I bought it. Okay, but there was no real customer service there. But when we do face-to-face training, there is customer service. We want feedback on how well we do. We want to know, are we doing it right? Are we doing it okay? Are there some things that we should be doing better? Because training is only effective if everybody's accepting it and they're being a part of it. Okay? This is what I call small group instruction. You see that we got a round table, it can be a square table, it can be just chairs in a circle. Okay? But you notice that it's only like 8 people up there. And you have a facilitator and all the participants, and then every participant has a set of handouts. Everyone is going to be focused on the center objective, which is the learning outcome that we hope to get done during that training event. Whether that is going to be leadership training, how to do oratorical contest, how to get people to go to Boy State, okay? How to start a Legion baseball team, how to do junior shooting. Whatever the training event is that we're going to do, we're going to have representatives from our zone sit around a table, those who have been selected by their commander, or those who really want to be a part of that and understand that. And they're going to learn something because they're going to talk to each other. They're not going to get talked to. Okay? We learn better when we talk to each other. We don't like being told we got to do something. If you have a large enough room, we could do it in here with 5 subjects. We could have a successful training event in this room with 5 different subjects. And you could get every single person that's involved in the post in those subjects to come in and sit around and have a roundtable discussion. Okay? You have to have a facilitator at each table. You just can't let them go wild. You have to have somebody who's going to control what's going on there. I like that. Okay. This is really kind of big, important stuff for those who are going to end up doing any type of facilitation. You're not the teacher. You're the facilitator of the discussion. You try and keep everybody on track. Okay? The learning is going to happen through what that group talks about, whatever that subject is. You're going to guide them on a journey. And you really don't want to give them the American Legion answer to everything. You want them to figure it out on their own. Okay? Because if the answer is already out there for them, they're going to forget about that. They're not going to come to that conclusion readily. They're just going to take it and say, oh, this is what the department wants. Okay? This is the answer for everything. But if they talk about it and discuss it amongst themselves, they'll come up to that same idea, that same conclusion, that same solution that you want them to have, but they did it on their own and they took part of it and they owned it. And they'll walk away from that training event feeling like they accomplished something, and they'll be fired up, and they'll go back to their posts, and they'll pump other people up, and they'll get the job done. Okay? When we have these large discussions up here, and we bring guys like Fred up here and Butch, the biggest thing we're trying to do with them is to get you motivated, to get you excited about something. They kind of stand up here and they remind you of some things. And inside your heart of hearts and in your brain, you start thinking, are we really doing that? Are we doing the best that we can? But in these small group and these zone type instructions, we come together with a consensus and we walk away saying, yeah, now I know what we need to do. Because everybody has a different solution to the same problem. You know, even in schools, you know, they teach you a certain math method or whatever, but there are kids that can't handle that math method and they know how to do it this way. Okay? But they still come up with the same answer. Well, we'll learn more from each other if we sit down and we talk about that. And maybe there's an idea out there that will work for you that you didn't know about. Okay? When you are a facilitator of a training event, you need to ask open-ended questions, because if you ask a question that just has a yes or a no answer, what do you think you're going to get? A yes or a no. And that's all you're going to get. They're not going to expound on anything. So, as a facilitator, as a trainer, you need to ask those open-ended questions to spur discussion. Because I've been saying all along that discussion is going to get you to the outcome that you're looking for. You need to ask a question before calling on a particular student name. Now, we all know that at any training event, there's that one quiet mouse that sits over there and does not want to be a part of anything. As a facilitator or as a trainer, you need to bring that person out of their shell and ask those direct questions sometimes to get them to participate in the group. Now, you also have those ones that are extremely involved and extremely boisterous and must talk through the entire training event and control 90% of the discussions. As a trainer and a facilitator in small groups, you need to learn how to quiet that person down a little bit and let the other people talk. Because we're trying to get everybody's ideas and suggestions. Okay? And if the student gets cut off, as facilitators, you want to find a way to get back to that student. Because if we don't, what's going to happen?
Shut down.
They're shut down. If we allow somebody to override their discussion and cut them off, they won't speak ever again. Okay? And we don't want that. We want everybody's involvement. So always, as a facilitator and instructor, find a way to give back to that student, give back to that comrade. Okay? Because they're important. They wouldn't be there as part of that training environment if they weren't. Somebody sent them there or they came on their own. Make sure they feel welcome as a part of that training event. And learn to wait for responses. As a facilitator or trainer, don't push the responses out there. Wait for them to come to you. Okay? Again, we don't want to be standing, sitting around this table here and telling them what the answers are. We want them to become involved and tell us what the answers are. And it may not be exactly the right way that you think it should be done, but if the outcome is the same, what's the difference? There is no difference. We're still accomplishing the mission. You may not like the way it was accomplished, but it still got done. You know, a commander out there in the field doesn't really care how that objective got captured as long as it got captured. You know, that's what we're trying to do, capture those objectives. Right now I'm going to ask my friend Charlie Baker from the 21st District to come up here and kind of demonstrate a little bit about what small group instruction would look like. Charlie, if you don't know, in the 21st took our zone concept and went to the bank with it and has been doing it successfully for the last year. And now that he's not the district commander, they still want him to come back and do training because they enjoyed it. Okay? So I'm going to give this to you, Charlie. You find yourself 6 volunteers to come up here and demonstrate what a small group instruction looks like. Now I'm just going to put this in the middle of the table.
There are 6 volunteers, post adjutants, new post adjutants. There are no new post adjutants.
4 years.
New post adjutants, please come forward. Right here.
Huh? 4 years. I'm with the quiet one.
3, 4. We're going to get up to today.
We have a couple more new post adjutants. Susan is not fair, no. How about new post commanders? New post commanders. James, come on.
Set the head of the table. Oh boy.
Pull a chair over, James.
I'll let him have mine.
What I found really works is getting the training down to the post level. If you have district training for your district convention, the 21st district had 8 posts represented at the district convention. There are 32 posts in the 21st district. So, I instituted this zone training. I sent emails out I sent snail mail out, and then I called the commanders and let them know what the schedule was. We ended up with 27 posts at our zone training center. So instead of just reaching the 8 posts at the district convention training, we reached 27 posts. So, and this is more or less the way we get started. Get it down to the basic level. New adjutant. What do you think the job of a new adjutant is?
Joe Salazar from Post 485. Been in this position my first month, and read the manual for the American Legion, and basically it comes down to that it is involved in all aspects of operations. They describe it as a first sergeant position in the military, and works closely with the financial officer, and from there I'm just picking it up and learning as I go along.
Pretty much doing the same thing, doing an awful lot of reading.
When you get a post action handbook, do you read it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. You always use it as a reference.
Say you got elected post adjutant in May. What would be the first form you fill out?
The post officer's certification to be mailed to the department.
Is that all?
In July, you get your membership cards, you go through them, and you consolidate post report, you take post minutes of all the meetings.
The commander adjutant report.
To who?
Well, it goes to department and then ultimately to national.
Then it goes to national. Why is that form important?
It informs the higher level of authority that what your hierarchy of your organization is, your leadership. And if you need to address a certain particular topic, I mean, like me being the first adjutant, they would contact me so I could resolve. Just recently, I got a memo from the department. It was addressed to the adjutant, so I took immediate action on it.
Mike?
They handle all the correspondence, and that's important. As we mentioned earlier, keeping reports provides history for your post, but it also provides a milestone report. Keep track of what you're doing through the year. Keep going forward. The adjutant's in charge of keeping contract. My understanding is keeping all of that in context and keeping everything up to date. He handles all correspondence, and that's a very important thing to me.
The commander and adjutant
Work hand in hand.
certification to Nashville.
Okay.
Why would that be important? Why do you need to send that into the department also?
Well, you don't get your membership cards until you're cert.
Well, no, that's your officer certification form.
Okay.
You can update that blue book. Blue book.
Charlie, use the mic, we can't hear.
Pardon me?
We can't hear.
So they can update the names in that blue book, the commanders and adjutants,
Right.
current.
There's a website, mylegion.org.
Right.
Comes to mind. You send that report into department, they send it to national. Then the adjutant contacts national. They give a username and a password.
Right.
So you can get on to the My Legion.
Right.
That's why it's important. I had 2 actions I wanted to see. They threw it away. They didn't think it mattered. Well, we certified to the department, but the national they threw in the trash.
I also share my password and username with our post chaplain so he can keep up with Post Everlasting for our members.
Share it with the post chaplain.
Yes,
How about the post commander?
and well, he doesn't have a computer.
How about the post vice commander?
Absolutely.
Our vice commander doesn't have one either.
Good, then,
So we don't have a
you-
website.
Provided you have a dedicated membership committee, well, you will share it with one of your membership committees, right? To fill in, since
Yeah.
the adjutant, one of the adjutant's responsibility for a password is membership.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Tell them how you did the rest of your training.
But once you get in a small group like this, adjutants, new post commander, new vice commander, new finance officers, you get a lot of discussion going, rather than 500 people. District commanders, if you have not set up zone training, it behooves you to set up post training in the zones as soon as possible.
Thank you, Charlie. Let's give these guys a hand up here, at least for getting up there on the floor. But you kind of get an idea of the concept. I know it was a little bit difficult for some folks to hear because we didn't have everybody mic'd up and everything. But there was a discussion going on, and people were giving answers or information, and folks were kind of joining in. And when they walk away from this, if they did this for a good half-hour training session or whatever, they would walk away with a good idea of what adjutants should be doing within their posts. Okay? It's an excellent training tool and an excellent way for us to learn from each other. Now, all these folks were relatively brand new to the American Legion as an officer or as a committee member or whatever, and you saw that they were kind of like struggling at some of the answers because they're new to it. Okay? But that's the only way we're going to learn. And the facilitator, Charlie, would help them out a little bit here to kind of guide them as where would you go and get some of this information that you need? How do you do that job of the adjutant? And believe me, they would, if we could keep them up there for about a half hour and really just focus on them instead of trying to do a presentation for you all, I bet you we could walk them out of here in 30 minutes and they'd know, be excited about being an adjutant and going to get that job done right. Okay, that's what we're trying to do with zone training. Now, I understand some districts are all very condensed, particularly around, your large metropolitan areas. You have, but you can still make zones out of your districts. No matter what, if they're only within a 100-mile radius, whatever, break them in half so that you're not trying to train all 25, 30 posts at one time. Break it down so you're in smaller groups. And as I showed on the board up there on the screen, that if you have different tables vetted for different subjects, okay, the training event can be done relatively quickly and can be done in a morning session just like we're doing right here. You can take 4 hours and possibly train with 5 tables up there, upwards to 50 people, and do round robin type training. If they wanted to learn how to be a leader over here, post leader, we're going to do leadership training right here. And Butch is going to sit on this table and he'll narrate that for about 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Over on this table, we're going to have adjutant training. And over on this table over here, we're going to have finance training. And then finally over in this table over here, we're going to have service officer training. And you all sit there and you do your training, and then after about 45 minutes, you switch tables. So now your leadership is moving over to your adjutant table. Your service officers is moving over here to your leadership table, and vice versa. You kind of do a round robin thing, and by the end of a 4-hour session, everybody has a good general idea of what everybody else's job is. And it makes life easier when they're looking for help. Are our service officers out there alone in this? Really? Are they out there alone in this? Are they the only ones that can handle issues? Aren't we all service officers within the American Legion? Okay? We may not have the answers, but we should know where to go get them. So when you do a training event and you set it up for a morning and the people only have to travel at the most maybe 1 hour to get to your training session, you can start it at 9 o'clock in the morning, finish it up by noon, everybody have lunch, and then if they want to, go to the bar and have a beverage. But the day is done and the training is over with, and they're not having to come back on Sunday to finish something up. We don't want to take away everybody's weekends just to do training. But we want to make it meaningful for them. So zone concept is what we developed, and small group instruction, which has been used in the military since the 70s, right? Okay? It's been used in the military for the 70s. At one time, I think they allowed about 25 students per class. Now they've broken it all the way down. They don't like anything more than 16 people in a class per instructor. Okay? And it just makes life easier, not only for the, as I want to call them, facilitators, but for the classroom environment as a whole. Because you will walk away learning a lot more. To critique, like I said earlier, keep it simple. Give them some space for their answers. Let them tell you in their own words. Don't give a, circle one type, multiple choice type questions. Let them tell you in their own words on your critique. Ensure that autonomy is there. If they want to put their name on it, they can. Okay, but there's no requirement on a critique to say, I'm David Crozier and I think you stunk, or whatever. They don't have to put their name on it, but if they want to, give them that opportunity. Okay? And then when you're done with them, don't just take them and file 13 them. Look at them, read them, consolidate the answers into a simple report that says, this is the general observation of the class, and then you take that report and do us a favor, send it to the training committee. We'd love to see it. We want to see how well you're doing out there in training, because there are some that want training to be done in large groups like this in some certain places of the state. We can't contradict any of that if we're not telling department what we're doing out there in the field. Okay? So please, when you're doing training events, let us know. Give us the subjects. Tell us how many people you trained. Tell us what they thought about it. And if you need help doing any kind of training whatsoever, please contact Barry or myself. Or contact your district commander who has a list of training and mentors that we gave them. Or your division commander who has a list of all the training and mentors in the entire division. And while we're at it, I know there's people out here in this audience right now that have been doing certain jobs within the Legion for quite many years, but they're not on our training and mentor list. And that kind of wonder why. Butch and Fred both talked about mentorship, and they talked about bringing the newbies up, the new generation up. And they can't do it if the old cadre won't impart some of that good knowledge that we have. Mentorship and training and just helping each other out is the way we're going to be successful, and everybody being able to tell the Legion story. That's all training is for us. What we're trying to do is educate you so that you can go out there and tell that prospective member and everything what it is we are, what it is we do, and how they can get involved if they want to. Okay? Do we have any questions out there whatsoever about what we're talking about here? Any questions? No? I think they want me to get off the stage, Fred. Please, if you have any questions about how to do zone training or small group instruction, please come see me. If you want a copy of this, just give me your email on your business card or whatever, and I will mail you a copy of this. This will be on the department website within about a week. I thank you all for coming out here, and let's get out there and do some training.